Hey there, so glad you're here. This is Reddit Stories Podcast. Relax, you're safe here. Here's our first story. Karen kept blocking my garage because she felt like she could and really ended up regretting it. Years ago, I moved into a new apartment complex. What made it appealing was the row of individual garages tucked behind the building. In that neighborhood, parking was gold. Street parking was limited and street sweeping happened at absurd hours, sometimes as early as 3:30 in the morning. People would hang on to a parking space like their lives depended on it, even opting to take ride shares rather than moving their cars. The building itself had 10 units. 8 of them were small studios and 2 were larger one-bedrooms. I had managed to get one of the one-bedrooms, which felt like a win. The day I was moving in, I met a neighbor who introduced herself as La Crystal. She lived in one of the studios on the opposite end. Right away, she made her intentions clear. She looked at the garage I was unloading boxes into and said, I park there. Not a question, not a request, just a flat statement. I asked her why she didn't use her own garage. She said it already had an old, broken-down car in it that she wasn't planning on moving. Then she shrugged like that explained everything. I told her that spot was mine and I needed it, especially since I left for work most days at 4 in the morning. Her solution? She gave me her phone number and told me to call her whenever I needed her to move her car. Now, I had a lot on my plate with unpacking and setting up, so instead of arguing with my new neighbor on day 1, I just nodded. But it didn't take long to see what a nightmare it was going to become. Every time I needed to leave, I had to call her. Sometimes she'd come down right away, but more often I'd be standing there for 10 minutes waiting. If I called again, she'd answer with an attitude, snapping that she was coming and I needed to chill out. I was the one trying to get to work on time, yet somehow I was the inconvenience. It didn't stop at mornings either. There were plenty of nights when I came home late and couldn't even pull into my own garage because she had parked there. I'd call, sometimes no answer, sometimes more attitude. Eventually, I told her flat out that she needed to stop. She brushed it off like it was no big deal. The property owner happened to be a friend of mine as well as a client of my business. I finally brought it up to him. He didn't like what he heard and put up clear signs around the property stating that cars blocking garages would be towed without warning. I thought that would fix it, but of course it didn't. One night I came home with my girlfriend and sure enough, La Crystal's car was blocking my garage. I called her 3 times, straight to voicemail. I walked over to her unit and could hear her inside, talking loudly on the phone, complaining about me calling. That was the moment I decided I was done playing games. I called the tow company. They came out, hooked her car, and hauled it off. The next morning, while I was at work, my girlfriend called me sounding rattled. She said La Crystal was standing outside my window on her phone, talking loud enough that it was impossible not to hear. According to my girlfriend, she was ranting that I was some stuck-up neighbor in a one-bedroom who thought he was special, and that I had her car towed for no reason. My girlfriend tried to ignore it, but it was unnerving. When I got home later that day, La Crystal was waiting in the courtyard with a grin on her face. She greeted me with a fake, sweet, "Hello, neighbor," like she wanted me to feel intimidated. I said hello back and kept walking. Then I heard her on the phone again, raising her voice, saying that I owed her $300 for the tow and that I better pay up if I wanted to keep breathing. I wasn't about to give her a dime. The following day, a large man showed up at her place. I assumed it was her boyfriend. He was bigger than me, well over 6'5" and built heavy. I'm a big guy myself, but he had me by at least an inch and a good 30 pounds. For the next week, every time I stepped outside, he'd step out too. He wouldn't say anything, he'd just stand there and stare me down like I was supposed to back off. But I didn't. I went about my business, stared right back when I had to, and refused to let her scare me into giving in. A few days later, karma came around again. She blocked another garage, not mine this time. The property owner happened to be driving by. He saw her car, shook his head, and called it in himself. Once again, her car got towed. That was the last time she tried blocking my garage. The tow is perfect revenge. That'll cost her some money each time she parks in front of a garage. Call me and I'll move is one of the laziest solutions I've ever heard. Towing was the only logical outcome, and she brought it on herself. The best part is, a tow truck doesn't argue back. She can rant all she wants, but once that car's hooked, the wallet's bleeding. I just love her trying to intimidate you after she would not do the right thing and still losing. Her poor boyfriend. Imagine her saying, "Hey honey, this neighbor got me towed because he thinks he owes his parking spot that I use. Can you come and make him pay my fine?" And he just stares at OP with no intention of actually doing anything because he knows his girlfriend is crazy. The boyfriend is a loser too, to be honest, and that's just facts. So she calls her man over like he's some kind of a hitman for parking disputes? Yeah, and all he did was stand there like a security guard with no paycheck. I bet she promised him boyfriend benefits if he scared the neighbor. And all he really got was front row seats to another tow truck show. Too bad La Crystal didn't have a La Crystal ball to see that in the end she was still going to lose. Karen, do we sometimes go overboard with our puns? No, Reddit boy. I live for our puns. They're the only thing keeping me sane in this wacky world of Reddit stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law she can't use me to replace my dead twin? I'm 35, male, and an identical twin. I know most would say that I was because my brother passed away last year, but I can't bring myself to use the past tense. Maybe one day I'll get there, but right now I will say I am. My brother, Sam, passed suddenly, and it hit all of us like a wrecking ball. His wife, Amber, was devastated. Their boys are only 5 and 7, and I could see the confusion and heartbreak written all over them. As for me, I spiraled into a grief I didn't know how to handle. I got into therapy. Amber refused. That's when things started to blur. Amber clung to me, not really to me as a person, but to what I represented. I looked like Sam. I had his face, his voice, his build, but I wasn't him. We were opposites in personality. Sam had always wanted the quiet life, marriage, kids, the whole suburban dream. I was the one who traveled, threw myself into business, and kept my independence. After the funeral, Amber asked me to stay at the house for a while to help out. I agreed, thinking it was just to support her and the boys. One night turned into a week turned into months. Without really meaning to, I slid into my brother's old role. I was taking the boys to school, helping with homework, eating dinners with them, fixing things around the house. It was like I had been cast in a part I never even auditioned for. The only difference was the absence of intimacy. I wasn't her husband, but I was filling in for him almost in every way. Friends tried to warn me. They said it wasn't healthy, that Amber wasn't dealing with her grief properly and I was enabling it. I brushed them off, telling myself I was just helping family. But deep down, something always felt off. Then, one evening, it all came crashing down. I had taken the boys out for the day just to give Amber a break. While we were out, I ran into an old friend. We caught up for a few minutes, and she suggested we go out for dinner sometime. It was the first time since Sam's death that I felt even a spark of interest in doing something normal again, something just for me, so I agreed. When we got back to the house, the boys innocently told Amber that I had been invited out. Her face changed immediately. She went pale, then red. She demanded to know how I could cheat on her. Those were her exact words. Cheat on her. I was stunned. I told her, Amber, I'm not Sam. But she didn't even acknowledge what I had said. She just kept repeating that I had betrayed her, like I was the husband who had stepped out on his marriage. That night, I packed a bag and left. She was screaming after me as I walked out the door. I stayed at a friend's place and tried to get my bearings. My phone lit up constantly over the next few weeks. Calls, texts, voicemails, all of them saying the same things. When was I coming home? The boys missed me. Things could go back to normal. Part of me did miss the kids. They had started to feel like my own. But I also knew that if I went back, I'd be stepping right back into a role I should never have taken on in the first place. I finally answered one of her calls and I told her straight. She needed help. Real help. I apologized for letting it go on for so long and for not setting boundaries earlier, but I said she couldn't replace Sam with me. Her voice cracked, then she started screaming again. I hung up. It didn't stop there. Her parents came to see me at work a few days later. They said Amber wasn't doing well, that she was unstable, and the only time she seemed calm was when I was around. They asked me to come back, but I told them I couldn't. They pushed harder, saying the boys were frightened and confused, that they needed stability, and that I was the only one who could give it to them. I said again, no. Since then, my nephews have been calling me. Their little voices asking when I'm coming back, saying their mom is upset all the time. It breaks my heart. I tell their grandparents what they say, and they turn it back on me, insisting I'm the one who can fix everything. Now I feel torn down the middle. On one side, I know I can't live someone else's life. I can't be a stand-in for my twin. On the other side, those boys didn't ask for any of this. They're already dealing with losing their father, and now they're losing the uncle who has been acting like a father for the past year. So here I am, stuck between guilt and self-preservation, wondering if I'm a terrible person for saying no. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep replaying the part, even though it feels like I'm abandoning my nephews too? The family seems to be delusional. The only one recognizing this has become a problem is OP. He can't be the one to go in. She's too unstable. While she's hurting, she isn't the victim here. OP and her kids are. If he goes back in when she isn't stable, it puts them all at risk. The kids need to be removed from the situation first, and some kind of medical intervention needs to happen. This woman isn't evil or crazy. She's broken. She needs help. The sister-in-law has had a break from reality. She isn't the first person to go completely mad with grief. It doesn't help that her brother-in-law is a mirror of her husband. The problem here is that the sister-in-law isn't processing her grief. She's living in a delusion. Those kids need to be away from it, and OP can't go anywhere near it right now. That's heavy. It isn't just grief anymore. It's a break from reality.
Yeah, and the saddest part is that the kids are caught in the middle of it.
They've already lost their father. Now they're watching their mother slip away too.
And the uncle can't fix this, no matter how much he looks like his brother.
He'd only get dragged down with them, and that wouldn't help anyone.
The right thing now is for the grandparents to step in and for professionals to get involved.
Because love and family aren't enough when someone's drowning in grief like that. They need real help.
Exactly. It's not about abandoning them. It's about making sure they actually heal.
Free breakfast for a limited time this morning for loud hotel neighbors. A few weeks back, my family and I decided we needed a little break. Nothing fancy, just a weekend getaway at a hotel resort where we could let the kids swim, relax a bit, and actually get some sleep without worrying about laundry or yard work. We were picturing calm evenings, fluffy hotel pillows, maybe even room service if we felt fancy. What we got instead was a herd of buffalo. At least that's what it sounded like in the room above us. The hotel had put us in a room on the second floor. Nice view, comfortable beds, and directly under what I thought at first was maybe a gymnastics team in training. Turns out it was just one very loud family. 6 people, maybe more, stomping around like the carpet was a trampoline. It started around dinner time and it didn't let up. Now, I'm not a fussy traveler. I can sleep through car alarms, thunder, even the occasional toddler tantrum. But this was something else. It wasn't just footsteps. It was slamming doors, dropped suitcases, bouncing on the bed, running from one end of the room to the other like a relay race. Every crash sent a little vibration down into our ceiling. We put our kids to bed around 9 p.m. Before tucking them in, my wife and I reminded them, quiet voices, we're in a hotel, there are other guests. Our kids are used to that routine. They curled up, whispered their goodnights, and passed out within minutes. Meanwhile, the Buffalo family upstairs had no such bedtime. Their stampede just kept going. By 10 p.m., my wife was glaring at the ceiling like she could set it on fire with her eyes. I tried to joke about it, said maybe they were testing the weight limits on the furniture, but she wasn't amused. The later it got, the more irritated she looked. And as the saying goes, unhappy wife, unhappy life. Midnight rolled around. They were still thundering. At one point, I heard something roll across the floor above us, like a bowling ball. I lay there wide awake, staying at the red numbers on the clock, while the noise just kept coming in waves. Somehow, eventually, everyone in our room drifted off. My kids were out cold. My wife finally fell asleep, although I could tell it was the restless kind of sleep. And me, I don't need much. 4, maybe 5 hours is my normal. My body has an alarm clock built in. So at 5 a.m. sharp, my eyes popped open. No alarm, no noise, just me wide awake. And as I lay there, I thought about the circus upstairs and about how annoyed my wife had been. The memory of her tossing and turning got me worked up all over again. That's when the idea hit me. I slipped out of bed quietly, got dressed, and headed for the elevator lobby. Most hotels still have those house phones you can use to reach the guest rooms or the front desk. I picked it up, dialed 6 plus the room number for the Buffalo family upstairs, and let it ring. 5, 6 rings. No answer. I hung up. For a second, I almost gave up. But then I thought, no, they owe me. They owe my wife. They owe everyone who tried to sleep under their indoor rodeo. So I dialed again. This time, someone answered. A groggy female voice, dragging out the syllables. She sounded like she had cement in her throat. Hello? I put on my brightest, chipper morning tone, the kind of fake cheerful you hear from customer service people who clearly hate their job but know that they'll get fired if they show it. Good morning. This is the front desk with your wake-up call. Are you awake? There was a pause, then confusion. A mumbled, I didn't give her time to think. We have a special thank you gift for families staying with us today. Free breakfast buffet and water park admission. First come, first served. And you and your guests must claim your award at the front desk within the next 30 minutes. More confusion on the line. I thanked her warmly and hung up. Then I went to the lobby, ordered myself a coffee, and waited. About 20 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Out stumbled the buffalo herd, still half-dressed, hair sticking up at angles, eyes squinting against the lobby lights. They shuffled up to the front desk, looking like zombies chasing a brain-shaped croissant. I sipped my coffee and watched from the corner. The mom started talking first, demanding to know about the free breakfast and water park admission. The poor front desk clerk blinked in confusion, then explained they hadn't offered any such thing. The mom insisted they had just received a call. Voices started to rise. Other guests turned their heads. It took the front desk staff a solid 5 minutes to convince them there was no special deal. Watching the realization dawn on their tired faces was like watching a balloon deflate in slow-mo. The hope drained right out of them. Finally, they sulked back to the elevator, muttering under their breath. And me? I sat back with my coffee and felt more relaxed than I had since we checked in. The rest of the morning was quiet. The family upstairs must have decided to finally walk instead of stomp. When my wife came down later, she looked rested and happier than the night before. Over breakfast, I told her what I had done. At first, she just stared at me. Then she started laughing so hard, she nearly spilled her coffee. She said it was the best breakfast she had had in weeks, and that I had done exactly what needed to be done. Hearing her laugh about it was better than the prank itself. Sometimes a little payback is the only way to get some peace. That was great, but I pity whoever was at the reception desk. OP should have said the free breakfast was at some imaginary restaurant. But just give that employee an excellent tip, and I think you're good. Yeah, as a hotel employee, I don't like this at all. You could have complained to the front desk about the noise. We have no problem shutting loud guests up. Instead, you created an awkward situation for the front desk. This is lame revenge. You guys are all bad guests. This was some creative payback, and to be honest, the best part is you did it all for your wife after she got such a rough night. It wasn't even about the noise at that point. It was about showing your wife you had her back after she got zero sleep thanks to that inconsiderate family. That said, you did end up giving the front desk a headache they didn't deserve. Next time you're there, maybe slip the receptionist a good tip. They definitely earned it dealing with that herd upstairs.
Imagine dragging that whole herd out of bed at 5 a.m. for a buffet that doesn't even exist.
That's the kind of wake-up call they actually earned.
And the receptionist got the side order of chaos.
Yeah, hopefully with a nice tip on top. Don't fake a family just to steal a parking spot. This happened a few years ago during the height of lockdown. My wife was pregnant at the time, and we had 3 kids under 5. So yeah, any grocery trip was a full-blown expedition. Buckling everyone in, packing snacks, making sure we had wipes, toys, and backup snacks in case the first snacks failed. It was a production. This particular trip was in the middle of a classic Texas summer. You know the kind. You step outside and feel like you've been wrapped in a hot, wet towel. The official temperature said 95 degrees, but the inside of a parked car, easily 120 and climbing. We rolled into the H-E-B parking lot, which was absolutely packed. If you're not from Texas, just know that H-E-B is basically a beloved institution. It's where everyone in the community shops, and they take that responsibility seriously. We were cruising slowly through the aisles, hunting for a spot, when I saw it. One of the family-designated spaces up near the front, marked clearly for expectant mothers and parents with small kids. Jackpot. With a pregnant wife and 3 little ones in the back seat, we were definitely the type of family that spot was designed for. I started to pull in when suddenly a car from the opposite direction darted toward and zipped into the spot ahead of us. No signal, no hesitation, just straight in like it was a NASCAR pit stop. I hit the brakes and just kind of sat there for a second in disbelief. I didn't want to make a scene, so I kept driving and eventually found a spot way further out. It added at least a few hundred feet to our walk, and now I had to unload 3 kids, unfold the stroller, and juggle water bottles, a diaper bag, and 2 sippy cups that somehow didn't have lids, the usual. As we headed toward the store, I passed the car that had jumped into the family spot. The driver had just stepped out, middle-aged guy, casual shorts, phone in hand. What stood out most was that he had been sitting in the car for several minutes after parking. All that rushing to beat us just to sit there scrolling. I figured I'd say something. Nothing rude or aggressive, just a friendly reminder. I said, "Hey, just so you know, these spots are usually for families with young kids or expectant moms." Without even looking up from his phone, he waved his hand and said, Yeah, the kids are in the car." I stopped. The car was empty. No one in the back seats. The windows were rolled up and the vehicle was completely shut off. I wasn't sure if he was joking or trying to end the conversation, but either way, it didn't sit right with me. I didn't argue, I just nodded and kept walking. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like I should have at least let someone know. Not to cause trouble, but because that's a serious claim to make, especially on a hot day. Saying that they were in the car, that's not something to throw around casually. So when we got to the store entrance, I quietly pulled aside one of the managers. I explained the situation calmly. I made it very clear that I hadn't seen anyone in the car and that it was likely just a misunderstanding or someone exaggerating. The manager thanked me and said they'd take care of it. That was that. H-E-B doesn't play around when it comes to community care. They've always been proactive and respectful, and I trusted they'd handle it right away. My wife and I did our shopping like usual. About 25 minutes later, we finished checking out and began our trek back to the car. And that's when I saw him again. He was standing next to his vehicle, speaking with one of the store's on-site law enforcement officers. H-E-B often has constables on duty, not for trouble, just as a safety presence. The officer was listening, calm and professional, while the man gestured and tried to explain something. From a distance, it looked like the officer was politely asking questions and confirming details. I didn't stop or stare. I just kept walking, pushing the cart with one hand and holding my toddler's hand with the other. We loaded the groceries, buckled the kids in, and got ready to go. And honestly, that was enough for me. The man had used a flimsy excuse to take a spot meant for families, and it ended with a respectful conversation that probably made him think twice next time. No yelling or drama, just accountability, Texas style. The lesson here? Don't fake having a family to cut corners, especially not in the middle of summer. And definitely not in front of someone who's juggling 3 kids, a pregnant wife, and a melting popsicle in each hand. Because if you're going to act like a parent to get a good parking spot, you might just end up getting a parenting-level lecture to go with it.
My niece demands I pay for a $5,000 wedding dress. A little background. My husband's niece lost both her parents when she was almost 11. She lived part of the year with us and part of the year with her grandparents on her dad's side. Not long after the funeral, she mentioned out of the blue that she wouldn't have anyone to take her wedding dress shopping or buy her one when she grew up. I reassured her that between her grandma and us, she wouldn't be alone and would have a beautiful dress. Of course, when she graduated high school, she said she was never going to get married. She met her boyfriend in college and they moved in together, and when she became pregnant, she quit school. This disappointed her grandparents, and even more so when she told them they weren't getting married just because of the baby. Fast forward 10 years and 2 more kids, she and her boyfriend came over to announce that they were finally going to get married. I initially thought it would be a courthouse ceremony or an intimate family gathering. Instead, she directly asked me, "Do you remember when I was 11, right after my parents passed, and you said between you and Grandma we'd find me a dress?" I replied that I did. She then showed me 2 dresses from a magazine, one priced around $7,500 and the other at $5,000. She said that since her grandmother was also gone, she was hoping I would help her not just with the dress, but also with some of their $29,000 wedding costs. I told her that when I said I'd help, it meant going with her to find a dress and contributing to its cost. I also assumed that the help was for a wedding that was not already 10 years delayed. I'm not against her having a wedding after all this time, but considering they've lived as a married couple for many years, something simple would have been more appropriate. I offered to take her to a local bridal salon and contribute up to $1,500 towards a dress. I even showed her options from the salon, most of which were under $1,600. I reminded her that the money from her parents' trust that was set aside for her college and wedding had been used to buy her boyfriend a car. She got upset and said her kids would hate her for not having one of those dresses. The kids are barely 9, 6, and 2. I haven't heard from her since. We're on Social Security and barely make ends meet. I understand that costs have risen, but I've seen so many dresses priced lower than what I offered. I feel she should have saved money, either on her own or from her inheritance. Am I wrong for not helping with the wedding after all of these years? Edit. My husband ran into her boyfriend, Mike, at the gas station. Mike explained that they were initially content with their situation since they considered themselves soulmates for all these years, despite not having the marriage certificate. Their oldest daughter had been teased at school because her parents weren't married, which upset her greatly. They tried to assure her and spoke with the school and the bully's parents, but the situation was distressing for their daughter. They then considered going to the courthouse to get married so they could have the certificate. She then thought about having a nice wedding after some program. Mike suggested that they dress up the kids, she could get a nice white dress, but nothing too extravagant. He didn't know how things had escalated, but suddenly she was talking about a wedding planner and found dresses in a magazine. Mike said he wasn't willing to spend that much on a dress that would be worn for only a couple of hours. A high school friend visited and told her about the proceeds from the sales of her parents' house, which her father had managed. From then on, she seemed to believe that she had more coming to her. Mike appreciated our offer, but felt that she was no longer our responsibility, as she is now his. I feel a bit better knowing that he understands and appreciates the offer, but she is now his responsibility. Not the jerk. $35,000 on a wedding they can't afford when they have 3 kids and minimal education is obscene. Guilt-tripping a relative on Social Security to contribute thousands is awful. Your husband's niece is an entitled, ungrateful brat. Not the jerk. You were being generous with your offer and she wouldn't take you up on it. If I were you, I'd withdraw all offers of help. Am I the jerk for refusing to move my wedding date after my brother said he can't make it? So I, 28 female, am getting married in 2 months. My fiance, who's 29 male, and I have been planning this wedding for over a year. We picked the venue, sent out save the dates last year, and everyone has known about the date for ages. Everything is set. The venue is booked, caterers, flowers, photographer, basically all of it. Deposits have been made, and at this point, we're just counting down the days, excited to get married and celebrate with everyone. Enter my younger brother, who's 25. He just got into a super competitive internship program that he's been wanting for a while, and he's over the moon about it. I'm genuinely happy for him because I know this is a big deal for his career. The problem is, he found out that the start date is the same week as my wedding, and he told me that he can't come anymore. Obviously, I was disappointed, but I assumed he'd be a little bummed out too and we'd move on. Instead, he asked me if I'd consider changing the wedding date. At first, I thought he was joking, but no, he was dead serious. He said, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I really don't want to miss your wedding, but I can't be in 2 places at once." I told him there's literally no way I'm changing the date. We're 2 months out, everything is booked, invites have been sent, guests have RSVP'd, and people have already planned time off and booked hotels. Not to mention, moving a wedding isn't as simple as just picking another day, especially at this point. There's a whole cascade of other stuff I'd have to move, and that's if the venue even has another open date anytime soon. He got annoyed and basically said, "So you care more about a party than your brother's future?" Which really upset me. Like, come on. It's not like I didn't give everyone, including him, a huge heads up about this date. He's known for over a year. I get that the internship is important, but it's not like he couldn't have communicated with them and tried to work something out, right? Now my mom is all over me about it, saying that I'll regret not having him there and that I'm being selfish by not even considering changing the date. She's implying that family is more important than one day, but I feel like this is the one day that's actually about me and my fiance, and I don't think it's fair to be expected to turn my life upside down to accommodate his work. My dad is staying out of it, classic, but I can tell that he thinks I'm being a bit unreasonable too. My fiance is backing me up, but I can tell he feels weird about the whole thing. He's a big family guy and doesn't want any drama, but he also knows how much we've already put into this wedding. I don't want to sound like I don't care about my brother, because I do. I love him, and I hate that he won't be there. But at the same time, I don't think it's reasonable to ask someone to change their wedding date this close. It's not like we're talking about a birthday party or something. This is a whole wedding. So yeah, am I the jerk for refusing to change the date and basically telling him that if he can't come, that's on him? Or should I be more flexible here? You can't move mountains for him. You can't do over everyone else who saved the date. There's no argument here. The date is the date. Now I get that he doesn't want to make waves, but my sister's wedding seems like an easy ask. Is it on a weekday? Why can't he do both? Not the jerk. Your wedding is not just a party. It's a significant event that takes months of planning and preparation. Your brother had over a year to figure out his schedule, and unfortunately, it didn't align with your wedding date. It's understandable that he's upset, but asking you to change the date 2 months before is not reasonable. He should have communicated with his internship and tried to work out a solution. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for sticking to your original plans, and congrats on your upcoming wedding.
What happens when a wild Karen jumps in front of OP's car intentionally to get hit by him and try to scam him? You've got to watch this one next. You won't believe what happens. The video just popped up on your screen. So give it a tap with your thumb or a click with your remote right now, and Karen and I will see you when you get there.